Hello and good evening in this dark, dark, dark night in the streets of Odessa. This scene is set in the church of Saint Athanasius, a meeting place of Father Petruchio, though he seems to be curiously absent this evening. However, there are 3 other Lasombra who have gathered to form this makeshift court to discuss the current political situation they are in, as one of their elders has just died. And they need to choose a baron to bend knee to this new slayer of theirs. Ulrich is standing at the front of this church inside, where in front of all the pews on the little platform, the soapbox. He appears to be the one to be hosting this meeting and addressing everyone else. He stands there with, strangely fully armored and armed, despite the fact that he would have contacted his fellows, not telling them not to obviously expect violence, similar to Santiago. But he simply stands there, motionless, with a calm smile on his face, waiting for the others to take their place in this meeting of fellow shadows.
Sister Madeline is she's fairly careful as she enters. She'll just look quickly around and just head in quite fast and sit down on one of the pews. Um, she'll just nod at Ulrich, and she'll get up closer, up in the up to close to where he is, and then sit down. Madeline has a very polite, light smile on her face, but she seems a little more. She seems fairly calm and waiting to see what this meeting will bring.
Fabio shortly follows Madeline inside the church, and it is obvious that he's uncomfortable by this. Is made uncomfortable by the setting, but he knows that most of his clan still are composed of members of the faith. He enters the church, looks around in visible disgust, nods to the ones in attendance, calmly takes a seat. He puts his hands on one knee and waits for his host to speak.
After the 2 Lasombra have arrived, Ulrich waits a moment. There are a few seconds. He waits for you to take your places, and then he waits for a few more. He's hoping that these few seconds might buy some time for his dear father, who would be better suited to hosting this meeting, at least. Ulrich would not consider himself educated enough to play the role of father or clergyman. But after those few seconds pass, he perks up somewhat, and speaks out to you in this abandoned building. I'd like to thank you all for coming. This evening, I'm sure you have some idea of why you've been called here this evening, to discuss the current state of our clan within this city in the Holylands, and how to best respond to it. I suppose our first agenda would be the recent news. I know that Lady Madeleine and myself have heard. I am not sure if you have. Andy, does he know you, actually? Would he have known you? Because he's been in the city for a few months.
Fabio's been in the city for like the past 4 or 5 months, so you might have brushed elbows before.
Okay. He'll just refer to you as Mr. Orsini. And he's just asking if you've heard the news regarding the Lasombra Elder's demise.
I've heard about it.
Good. Then I'm sure we all understand the somewhat tenuous position we hold in this city right now. As I'm sure the Nosferatu would love to take advantage of this opportunity to make sure we cannot regain any foothold, which is why I personally see to it as important that we get a hold of this barony.
Even though Jerusalem is now in Nosferatu hands, I don't think any of the blood of any of the high clans from back in the old world would joyfully bend the knee in front of the Nosferatu. Their clan has talents. They have years where most of us have not. Yet they are not fit to rule.
I understand. This is why we should maneuver ourselves carefully, as if any one of us were to become Baron, no doubt certain that any of us would enjoy submitting to our new prince. But unfortunately, this would be a matter of duty and not personal pleasure. And if we are to recover, we will need to begin eking out a new territory of our own.
You see Fabio standing from his seat, clutching the pommel of his sword with both hands, looking at both of you dead in the eye. A prince, a baron, a king, a lord, however he wants to be called, a ruler of the city, is not a position we want. Out of the sheer risk that such position brings about with it. We are, after all, like we always have been, the clan of shadows, a clan of people of the faith, a clan of people of knowledge and power and influence. a position of leadership in this city would only paint a target on our back. And we are, as a clan at this point, in a volatile position. I'd say, my brother and sister, we should aim at other positions. Positions that are more down to earth, more in contact with the folk. Canaanites of the city are not going to willfully listen to the highest in position, no matter what clan he or she is. We need to make sure other positions are within our grasp, positions we can hold a lot easier, that give us more influence.
What do you mean when you say that no one will listen to those in the highest position? He seems curious at that statement.
Anyone who becomes the Baron will be seen as a puppet of Jerusalem, someone manipulated by the will of the prince. It is an important position. It grants benefits, no doubt. But it is a position that bypasses the keeper's free will in acting to his or her clan's best interests. In the uncomfortable position in which we find ourselves nowadays, it might be a bite too big for us to chew.
But on the contrary, if the kindred of the city were to choose their Baron, would he be not more favoured? Especially if you were a native to this city and not a foreign puppet sent by the prince.
Edessa is young. Edessa is new. We still keep to ties of blood more than ties of convenience. Democracy, the power and the voice of the people, is a goal that was obtainable for the ancient Greeks. We know how things work nowadays. The one with the purest blood and the highest title and the most money and the most soldiers rules the land. We have no money, no people to assure our control.
Neither does any clan within the city. That is why we're in a unique situation.
Yes, but let me ask you this, brother. What would be more convenient for our clan? Take the nicest apple from the tree and let the others fall to the ground. Or let another grab the nicest apple and get the others in return.
I suppose that depends on one's perspective. I have already met some other kindred from this city. There was a meeting with a bourgeois known as Santiago. He wished to... Aura kind of smiles somewhat at this, humid. Go to war with this new prince. But everyone else in the room disagreed. I believe that every kindred in the city, or at least the vast majority, are in agreement that regardless of how we feel or the new Baron would feel is that they would have to submit either way.
If I may have, well, both considerations are still something to be considered. Putting a Baron of this city from our clan would, I think, not be worth the risk. It could be seen as a provocation or an outright declaration of war, considering that they had been warring, the Nosferatu and our clan, for quite some time. So suddenly declaring yourself Baron of this city would be, well, depending
Of
on how
course,
tentative he is, would be a problem.
ultimately it would be the Prince's choice, not the Barons, or the self-proclaimed Barons.
Still, would we want to take that chance?
If you wish to secure power, you must take risks, no?
True, but I do not mean this as an insult, even though it could be seen as such. You sound a little like Santiago, being quite forceful, willful, and probably a visionary, but it is not the most, maybe not the direct route we should take here. Maybe a more subversive. I must say, Mr. Orsinis does seem to think along the same lines as I would.
And what titles would there be? There is only the Baron currently as a title available in the city.
A Baron that would be very, very dependent on others.
Exactly.
So we will not be Baron. None of us would be Baron, but we would be some of the most influential people in the city.
We should be looking to galvanize the kindred of the city in and out of our own family. Grant a sense of community. This would minimize the risk of betrayal while also securing our own power base. I've met some receptive, I hate to use the term, marks. Regardless, declaring oneself, or, well, yes, I suppose, declaring oneself Baron as one of the Lasombra, I doubt would be considered a declaration of war. The war is over. Yeah, it has been declared.
I hope you're alright.
Even if the war is over, what makes you so sure that the Nosferatu are not going to try and undermine the rule of our clan? Why not spread our tendrils as far and wide as we can? Why not work towards having a sheriff from our clan, or a seneschal, or a chamberlain, or a master of war, or a keeper of Elysium? Positions that give you much more leverage when dealing with more people, rather than sitting on an ivory throne and being the puppet that awaits letters from Jerusalem.
I believe the Baron has more power than a chamberlain, but I digress. You presume that the Prince has a... It's true that he has an interest in holding power over this place, but I believe his concern lies more with the larger cities, such as, well, Acre. And I believe he still has to deal with the Assamite problem. They have not yet submitted. We may be able to exploit that. But being a... Oh.
The Assamites are their problem, not ours.
Maybe. Or maybe it will soon become ours. maybe the Turks, and I suspect the Assamites will follow with them. Maybe they will come here.
What I'm suggesting is that in the future we may want to examine this avenue.
Truly, but we can support someone not from our blood. I think this would suit us better than bearing the brunt of the, what shall we say, consequences and benefits of becoming the Baron. But of course, all you suggest can be done. We can appease the other kindred. We can build our influences. Build our influence to a point where we can decide whether or not we want to support someone else or we want to support one of our own.
Well, let's examine first the kindred that are available to support. I believe Santiago has little interest in becoming the Baron. And I'm no certain that Amelie, the self-proclaimed castaway, and her friend would not be eligible either. This would leave the Imam, Gale of Clan Revnos, and the two Gangrel.
One of the Gangrel. One of them, I am quite sure, is as little or maybe even less interested in becoming the Baron as Mr. Santiago, but that is my...
I would agree. In fact, to be honest, I do not believe either of them would be particularly interested.
Maybe we should rally to our old allies from back home. Speak with the Vendru, speak with the Shimizi, speak with the Toreador. See where their loyalties lie.
To my knowledge, there are no Chismisi or Venture in the city. There is a Setite, but I would not deal with her.
Nor will any of us. Of course, I cannot decide what you would do with your time, but I would be most disappointed in anyone of my blood who would be as foolish as to deal and have any dealings with the snakes.
They have their uses.
Yes, I suppose they do, but I would not know of those uses.
Very generally unkempt and dangerous, and this one was not particularly polite either. But if I may shed some more detail on what my original notion was, ironically, I suppose the inverse of what you had planned, Mr. Orsini. Rather than filling the titles with Lasombra, only fill the Barony with the Lasombra. The other titles go to the other kindred, giving the appearance of, yes, a barony ruled by a Lasombra, but one with power spread out across all the clans. Too distilled to be a threat, yet loyal to the princedom as a whole.
Yes, but something tells me that this whole race for the title might be in vain. Something tells me that in a state of turmoil, in a state of calm after the storm, our dear beloved prince might support someone from his own clan. And as our sister said, a baron from Clan Lasombra might be seen as a power grab, as an act, if not of war, at least of defiance. Why not rally against a strong and and open-minded Baron that can help us, and we can help him or her, and spread our influence even wider in the city, opening our contacts to the new clans, giving support to newcomers, and proving to the Canaanites of the city that undermining the old Lasombra rule might not have been the wisest decision.
Then, how about we split our roles? You gather your influence from a distance, whereas either Lady Madeleine or myself act as the face of a distraction, while you can gather power from shadows and galvanize the rest of the city.
Sir Aldrich, I must admit your stature and posture right now is quite inspirational. She turns her head a little to the side and smiles. That armor, that warrior's posture could be a way to go, but then again, suppose that we are sending a signal of not going to war. Well, probably not, but I would not mind you being the face at least, but I will not, of course. I mean, I know that some gentlemen might consider my appearance quite pleasing. I can always fill such a role myself.
Ulrich smiles at the compliments. I thank you for your flattery. But a knight is as much duty-bound as he is a soldier. He would not dare consider betraying the one he made, well, the lord he is but a retainer of. And with that, he kind of gives a bit of a, yeah, fuck that kind of smile. Obviously implying that he would totally betray the Nosferatu Prince in a heartbeat if given the opportunity.
Emily just smiles very widely as she says, "No, I was only commenting that you look rather ravishing with the armor," and she seems a little dreamy. You can't really she's actually complimenting you, and she's, "But I was not. If that was the case, I truly apologize if I was impeding your honor." But that's
Oh, not at all.
she seems quite pleased or enjoying this somehow.
Empathy roll. Tell me.
You can tell that she might actually there's something she enjoys this, whatever this is, this interaction with you. She seems she's gone out of her way to do this for whatever reason, but she seems either genuine or pleased or enjoys this. Well, can't really say flirting, but complimenting you. It seems to just she seems to enjoy this.
Well, you can obviously tell that Ulrich appreciates it because he said so, but he seems to reciprocate such feelings. Alas, it may be wise for us to try and unite the kindred from different fronts. Mr. Orsini, you said providing assistance to newcomers. This seems like a good idea. I did plan to assist the two outsiders, the ones who travel with the minstrels, as they're in a And I'm sure they're most aware of this, in the rare position where their voices actually matter for once.
Let's just say that my position as one of the merchants of the city makes me privy to lots of gossip, both kind and kindred alike. Not to mention the fact that, though I'm not proud of it, the fact that I make my haven in a house of women of low morals gives me an advantage in finding out names, places, events. Yet newcomers, though useful as they may be, are not the ones we should put down our money on. Let us find a face for a cause, a face that is not of our clan, someone to support, and let's give them as much support as we can. We hide our little act of brotherly treason, so to say, behind another clan, while we make sure that whoever becomes prince needs us like the blood they drink.
Indeed. Then our task seems quite obvious. We all should be getting as much information as we can, but who indeed would be the best for the position? Not meaning who would be most effective by themselves, but of course who would be best in that position for us.
Ulrich looks down for a moment. And he looks back up again. He just goes, "We are most numerous in this city." And then that's the whole sentence. He almost looks at you. Orsini in particular, as if he's supposed to know what that means or entails.
I'd say go to our old allies, like I said before. Let's each investigate what clans we can, who those Canaanites are, what they want from this position, what their ambitions are, as well as finding their Achilles heel.
But by the way, my memory is a little fleeting at the moment, but do we know of any of the Toreador or Ventru in the city?
I am not even sure if there are any, which limits our options.
Well,
Not that I would consider the Venture our allies.
they are
They are
also
not necessarily allies, but their ambitions are easy to cash in on. Not to mention the fact that I'd rather put my trust in a Ventru than a Gangrel or a Bruja or a Nosferatu for that matter.
indeed.
Though I'd say for a new city, for a city as vibrant as ours, either the iron hand of one of the Samizi or the soft and gentle touch of one of the Toreador might be our wisest choices.
Well, it is my understanding that Samitsi does not travel less far south normally, but I may be wrong, of course.
They travel if the interest sparks as much as any other clan.
I have
Okay.
yet to meet either of those two families from the city. I'm sure I will soon, but it may be an indicator of a lack of numbers.
Elysia will be called. Our prince wants us to plot against each other. He wants his support to provide the leverage needed. If we work against his plan, keep our cold blood, and keep a leveled head, we might have an upper hand on this whole story. So socializing with our peers is going to be thrust upon us in the upcoming nights. Patience is our greatest asset at this moment. Closed mouths, open ears, silent steps, and wide smiles.
Well, this will be, of course, the not the last conversation we have of these subjects, but another thing that is a little more, well, it's definitely a family concern. I do not know if any of you have had much dealing with our family ability or family speciality. Hmm? If you have, then you know that this is not something that is very good to demonstrate out in public. It has certain effects on the humans, the mortal mind. What I would suggest is that we find a place where our family could display some of these things without raising, shall we say, concern of the local citizens.
Basements can be rent. Felt
Exactly.
even my haven is worthwhile enough for small displays and for regular practice. We all know what the powers of our blood can do.
But
Yet,
we must hone this practice, these things as a whole, because it is one of the things we have that no one else really do understand. And if we were to practice it, all of us, we would be all the stronger for it.
yes, but the power of our blood is a weapon of open war. Though,
Merely stating that preparing oneself for the worst is never the worst thing you can do.
yes, and though I'm sure that I'm not the only one here that follows the path of our eldest, it might be a time in which our study should not be the priority. The dark holds many secrets, and its secrets are useful. But for now, our path is clear. We use our voices and our eyes against both canine and human alike to make sure our goals are met. And after that, once we grow in influence and numbers, and we don't have to look down the streets 2 times to make sure that no one follows us, we might practice our talents in peace.
Oh, keep in mind that. The dark can also be our eyes if applied properly. I suppose this... we still have much headway to make, but I believe this has been a healthy enough discussion for one evening. One final word of advice, though, would be that the Nosferatu have always scuttled in the shadows. This is the game they play and the one they've always played. They are not ones to understand being in the light, or associating with a face. And then he just kind of goes, but alas, this meeting is adjourned. I thank you all for coming.
And Fabio nods to both of you. Remember, dear brothers, if you ever need my help, if you find yourself needing sustenance or a place to sleep, come to the Blooming Rose in the Merchant's Quarter. And with that, I wish you both a good night. And may the dark help us see the truth. And he bows deeply to both of you and exits the church.
Sister Madeline stands up and goes over to Errington, smiles at him, just grabs his hand, just holds it for a moment. And she says, "It was very much my pleasure to come here and see you again and speak with you. I hope we will have more of this in the future."
If you take his hand, he'll bend a knee and kiss it like a real knight would.
Oh, you make me feel as I am a noble birth myself, and I am very flattered. She says as she, "Please stand. I am not worthy of such noble behavior. Please."
Ah, but you are.
I
That's
thank
not
you for your
all.
kind words, and I thank you for what you have started here today. We will speak with the Padre soon. I hope that we will see him again, and we will meet each other quite soon. And yes, I will begin to look into certain members of our local community.
Yeah. And then I hope I shall be seeing you shortly, my lady. And then he'll run like 2 fingers down your cheek like that, rather suggestively.
She will do a little giggle and just smile very, very widely and very warmly, and turn around and exit.
With that, our dear knight here is left alone to ponder the events of this evening. One success, one problem. The problems can be solved. He seems to murmur to himself. And after the last of the Lasombra have left, he will leave, go out for a spot of hunting in the noble quarter. As our scene ends.